catch 'em all.
Hey guys, Pokedan here. It's fair to say that Pokemon is a well-known franchise. It's been around for over 20 years now, and it has massively impacted the world. Being so popular, Pokemon is referenced in a lot of places. It's referenced in movies, other video games, and many more. But in this video, you guys join me to count down the top 10 times Pokemon has been referenced in other TV shows. Now, I watch a lot of TV myself, and I find it amazing when I see a Pokemon reference pop up, because it's just like, I get that. Also, I just wanted to say that I was really unsure of how to even rank this list. So I decided on ranking it based on the popularity of the show that referenced Pokemon is. Now, there are lots of references of Pokemon in TV shows, more than 10, so I'm bound to miss a reference you guys may remember. And if I do, be sure to let me know about it in the comments. But with all that being said, let's get started. Okay, so at the number 10 spot is the rebooted series Teen Titans Go. A lot of people are mixed on this series, most, sadly including me, think that it isn't the best reboot of a show. But nevertheless, it did reference Pokemon one time. In the episode titled Man Person, after Raven and Cyborg catch all of Beast Boy's escaped body parts, of course, they celebrate this occasion. They celebrate with a high five, and as they high five, the screen changes and words appear reading, "Caught 'em all." This is of course a reference to the Pokemon slogan, "Gotta catch them all." And the text they used even has a similar font to what Pokemon use. When I was researching this video and actually watched this episode, it made me laugh seeing this. No matter where you stand on Teen Titans Go, you gotta admit that this was a cool reference. Up next is a show that I'm sure we've all heard of. It's SpongeBob SquarePants. Like Pokemon, SpongeBob has been around for a while, and it's a cartoon very well known throughout the world. SpongeBob has actually made two notable references to the Pokemon franchise. The first is a clock at a bus station from the episode Rock Bottom, and it looks pretty much identical to a Pokeball. Now, it's not the biggest reference ever to Pokemon, but it's still cool to see. The next reference comes from the episode Sailor Mouth, and as SpongeBob learns a bad word from reading off of a skip, if you look carefully you can see the word Onyx is also written on the side of the skip. Now, I don't know who wrote this, but one thing for sure is that this rock snake Pokemon probably wouldn't survive too long in Bikini Bottom as it is underwater. The next TV show I'll be talking about is a quiz show, and it is Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Now, as you could guess, Pokemon was referenced in the form of a question on this quiz show. Oh, and by the way, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire isn't the only quiz show to include a Pokemon question. There have been others, but since it is one of the most well-known quiz shows, I thought I'd choose this to be on the list. Anyway, on this quiz show, there have been two Pokemon questions. The first was for $500,000, and it asked, which of the following characters is not considered to be a Pokemon? The answer was of course Frodo, but the player chose to walk away with $250,000 as they didn't know the right answer. The other question was for $8,000, and it asked what Pikachu's primary color was. Thankfully this time the contestant got the right answer, and the answer was of course yellow. Now honestly, another reason I included this quiz show on the list is because it inspired me to make my own Pokemon quiz show, and it was called Who Wants to Be a Pokemillionaire. I've stopped this series now, but who knows, maybe in the future it'll make a return. Coming in at the number 7 spot on this list is the cartoon known as Johnny Test. This show has actually had 2 entire episodes devoted to referencing Pokemon. They were called Johnny-Mon and naturally The Return of Johnny-Mon. The story of the episode Johnny-Mon included tons of Pokemon references, and it was about Johnny getting trapped in the Tinymon world. Instead of actually calling it Pokemon, to avoid legal problems, they had to call it Tinymon. Anyway, to escape the Tinymon world, Johnny and his sisters had to trade themselves with a cable. But in order to access that, they had to win a Tinymon battle. In this episode, there was also a character who was similar to Ash called Blast Ketchup. And there were Tinymon that looked like Squirtle and Shadow Lugia too. They were called Kadoomerang and Screecherine. I actually remember watching this episode when I was younger, and I was so excited about it. Two of my favourite shows in one was awesome. Next up is another TV show from my youth. It's Codename Kids Next Door. I remember that I really loved this show when I was younger. When it came on Cartoon Network, I would be watching it and there would be nothing to stop me. I didn't know it when I was younger, but there was actually a reference to Pokemon in the episode Operation Archive. In this episode, as crowds of kids are cheering, there's a very short scene where you can actually see a kid wearing Ash Ketchum's clothes. Like I said, I didn't see this reference when I was younger, but looking at it now, it's just awesome, so I had to mention it in this video. In at the number 5 spot on this list is the hit TV show known as The Big Bang Theory. I'm sure you've all heard of this show, but if you haven't, then this show includes a lot of nerd culture. So I mean, it was about time that Pokemon got its mention. And in this show, Pokemon has actually been mentioned 3 times. The first was in the episode titled The Koopa/Kripke Invasion, in which the character Raj asked Howard why he had no food, and Howard replied, he wasted all his money on Pokemon cards. I'm a massive fan of The Big Bang Theory, and when Howard replied with this, I just had the biggest grin on my face. Another small reference to Pokemon was in the episode The Indecision Amalgamation, where there was an advertisement for Pokemon X and Y in a game shop where Sheldon couldn't choose whether to buy the Xbox One or PS4. This was just a small reference, but still, it was a great one. The final reference to Pokemon comes from the episode The Perspiration Implementation, where Sheldon tells a girl, I choose you, and after she rejects him, he says, it worked for Ash and Pikachu. These references were all great and I love The Big Bang Theory, so I'm really glad I get to talk about it in this video. Coming in at the number 4 spot on this list is the TV show Recess. Recess is yet another show I loved to watch when I was younger, and there was an episode titled The Game, which heavily referenced the Pokemon TCG. In this episode, a new playground craze known as Ajimbo was taking over the whole school. Ajimbo was a card game that all the children in the school were playing, and it was a polite nudge to the Pokemon trading card game. Although I watched Recess when I was pretty young, I actually do remember this episode well, and it was a fun Pokemon reference. Coming in at the number 3 spot on this list is the TV show known as Steven Universe. Now, admittedly, I've never watched a single episode of Steven Universe before, but when I did my research for this video, I found that there are quite a few references to Pokemon on this show. I'm not going to mention all of them because, like I said, there are a lot, so I'll only mention the really good ones. Firstly, in the episode titled Cry for Help, when the character Amethyst opens the door of the refrigerator, one of the products inside is called Moo Moo Milk. This is just a fun little reference to the Pokemon milk tank, and it's cool to see because no other show has mentioned Moo Moo Milk before. Anyway, the next Pokemon reference comes from the Steven Universe episode called Keep Beach City Weird, in which a poster on the wall owned by Ronaldo reads Psychic Duck. Now this clearly references the Pokemon Psyduck, and it's awesome. And of course the final reference of Pokemon in Steven Universe comes from the episode Steven the Sword Fighter, where a figure of Pikachu can actually be seen in Steven's room. Steven Universe has many more Pokemon references, and I think I'm gonna have to watch this show for sure. Coming in at the number 2 spot in this list is not 1 or 2, but it's 3 shows, being Family Guy, American Dad, and The Cleveland Show. And the reason they're all bundled into one spot together is because they're all similar shows and have lots of Pokemon references between them. Because of all of the Pokemon references, I'm only going to mention one from each show. In an episode of Family Guy titled April in Quahog, on Chris's wall he has a poster of a figure that looks an awful lot like a Machoke. Now, I love Machoke, so I mean, Chris clearly has good taste in Pokemon. The next reference comes from American Dad, and it's from an episode called A Piñata Named Desire. In this episode, Steve and his friends have a sleepover in his treehouse, and his friend Toshi is wearing a pajama top with a purple Pikachu on it. I love this reference and this episode of American Dad, it's great. And finally is a reference from The Cleveland Show. When Cleveland takes Rallo to the fair, there are lots of plush toys that can be won, and at one stall you can even win a Gengar plush. Now, out of any reference on this list, this is one of my favourite references to Pokemon. It was just so well done. Coming in at the number 1 spot in this list is one of the greatest TV shows ever created, and that's a fact. It's The Simpsons. Created over 30 years ago now, The Simpsons has been known for predicting future events, but it's also been known for its references to other shows and franchises. And Pokemon is of course one of them. There are so many Pokemon references in The Simpsons, like the Pikachu Bart saw in his hallucination, when Bart was actually watching the Pokemon anime, and even when The Simpsons may have just predicted Pokemon Go. There are just so many, but one of my favourite references to Pokemon in The Simpsons is from one of the Treehouse of Horror episodes. In this episode, there's a part where The Simpsons reference Japanese culture, and Maggie is actually a Pikachu. It's just so adorable, and I love it. If any show was gonna take the number 1 spot on this list, it just had to be The Simpsons. But anyway guys, that pretty much wraps things up for this video, so if you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. Also, I know I have missed a lot of references to Pokemon from other TV shows, so be sure to let me know some of your favourites in the comment section. But with all that being said, for now, I've been Pokedan, you've been amazing, and I'll see you guys next time.